So last night we had a bit of breaking news and we did a live stream to talk about what the heck just happened. Well, it turns out even though Joe Manchin has been extremely clear that he will not support any climate change initiatives during these times of extreme inflation, he pivoted once again. So this is probably the fifth time he's flip-flopped on this issue, but it turns out last night both Joe Manchin and Chuck Schumer came out and publicly said they have come to an agreement on a new slimmed down version of the original Build Back Better that includes funding for both medical and for climate change initiatives. Now this bill is about $430 billion in spending, and it also includes tax increases of about $700 billion, and that net difference is $300 billion, meaning they are attacking the deficit by about $300 billion with these tax increases and initiatives focused on bringing in revenue to more than offset these costs. Now, we're not going to talk about whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. All we're going to talk about is what is included in this bill regarding tax credits. So last night we did a live stream and we continued to refresh, hoping that we would get visibility to this bill once the draft was loaded into the system. And last night it did happen. So during the live stream, we were able to start to dissect what all is in this bill, because there are a lot of new initiatives in this, and the way that the tax credits are structured are very different than what we've seen before. Now, of course, there have been changes over this last year on what exactly this tax bill will include, and that is no different as of last night. So I want to be very clear, this is not a passed bill. However, this was done directly with Joe Manchin and has his approval. That does not mean it's going to pass in the Senate, but I would say that there's a reasonably good chance this is the bill that we're going to see pass in the Senate via the reconciliation process. Once that happens, it then goes over obviously to the House, which is presumably going to pass this as well. So let's dive in and talk about the details of what these tax credits are. So the Inflation Reduction Act of 2022 is a 10-year bill, and it starts after December 31st of 2022. That means this is not retroactive. This bill starting in 2023 means it goes all the way through 2032. This is a tax credit of up to $7,500, and it is now broken down into two categories. First, $3,750 for North American battery components. These battery components must be made or assembled in North America. 50% of those components by 2024, and then every year thereafter, 10% more must be made in North America. The final target is 100%. By 2029, components must be made or assembled in North America. They can also use components not made in North America as long as they're recycled here in North America. The other $3,750 comes from battery minerals that are sourced from free trade partners with the United States. So 40% of the minerals that are put into the battery must be sourced by 2023 from free trade agreement partners with the United States. Every year thereafter, it does increase by 10% until the final target of 80% by 2027 through the end of this bill. So what this all means is at least half of the battery must be assembled or built here in North America. It can be Canada, Mexico, United States. In addition, the raw materials that go into the actual battery, the things like iron and phosphate and lithium and cobalt, must be sourced from a U.S. trade partner. The MSRP caps are the same as we've seen in the past. It is $80,000 for vans, SUVs, and trucks, and $55,000 for others. So sedans like the Model 3 have a $55,000 cap. The income caps did tighten on this updated bill. You now have a cap of $150,000 for individuals and $300,000 for joint filers. They also made some changes to used EVs in this updated bill as well. The new credit for used EVs is $4,000 or 30% of the total cost of the used car, whichever is less. The car must be 2 years old or older. It cannot exceed $25,000 in price, and it must be bought from a dealer. This credit can only be used once per vehicle, and this will be tracked by the VIN. So once a used car has taken this $4,000 credit, it cannot be taken again in a subsequent sale through another dealer. You also cannot buy from a private party to also get this credit. The income caps for used EVs are $75,000 for individuals and $150,000 for joint filers. And then finally, this is a refundable credit like we've been seeing all this time. This is going to be realized at time of purchase. It does not appear that we're going to have a year wait before this rebate is realized at time of purchase like we had previously. So starting January 1st of 2023, you will start to recognize this credit at time of purchase. It'll be treated just the same way, at least from a consumer standpoint, as if a manufacturer was offering a rebate. It'll be taken off the price of the car when you go to purchase it. Now, it's interesting that we have these changes because Joe Manchin has been so outspoken about these issues, and this all but fell apart at the end of last year. Then there was a little bit of a glimmer of hope, then it was shut down again, and now here we are. The good news is Joe Manchin is on board with this and was part of that negotiation to come up with the final language on this. It's also pretty interesting to see that they've really narrowed this down to ensure that this is very targeted. Number one, from an income perspective. They lowered the income targets again. The last time the income targets were $500,000 for joint filers. It's now $300,000 for joint filers. It's interesting that they've narrowed this down again to ensure that we're not offering tax rebates for some of the highest earners in the country. Now, in different areas of this country, $300,000 may not be as much as it is in other areas. So that's obviously going to be a point of contention, but these are the targets for income. In addition, it's going to be very complicated because the minerals that go into these batteries must be sourced from a free trade partner of the United States. So the batteries that go into the standard range Model 3, a lot of those minerals are sourced locally in China, and that may become an issue. So I would anticipate to see a lot of supply chain shifts for the types of things that go into these batteries like iron or phosphate or cobalt or what have you, depending on the chemistry of the battery. Also, it's interesting to see that rather than having a car that must be built in the United States, it's now North America, and Canada and Mexico had been pushing hard for changes in this language of the bill because the way that this was written previously, it was giving a lot of priority towards US built cars and US built batteries. Now, both Canada and Mexico are also included in this. So the entire North American continent will benefit from this when it comes to investments from these big auto manufacturers where they're starting to set up shop. So we're going to start seeing some pivots in the coming years as manufacturers start to look at these investments and where they're going to set up their new production facilities. Mexico, Canada, United States all stand to benefit greatly from this. And as EV adoption continues to ramp up, this means the next decade should be very interesting as we look at manufacturing coming back to the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So this was the summary of last night's live stream. I hope that this brings some clarity to you. This is not retroactive. It is up to $7,500. It is refundable. It is at time of purchase. There are lower income caps. And that is the situation that we are looking at now. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, of course, give it the thumbs up. If you haven't already, of course, subscribe to the channel as we continue to post content regularly. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram @BeardedTesla. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.